Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Subject is Advanced Corporate Finance and topic is Merger and Acquisition. This is fifth lecture on merger and acquisition. Today we will discuss divestiture. Divestiture is basically the company when dispose some of its investment either in product or in operation or any specific division. We will also discuss that what are empirical evidence on the divestiture, empirical evidence regarding its impact on shareholder wealth. So what is the impact of these divestiture on shareholder wealth is shareholder wealth. We will also discuss ownership structuring, ownership restructuring, along with this motive behind going private, why companies become a private limited when they are listed on any organized stock exchanges. What are leverage buyout and management buyout? We will discuss the characteristic of ideal candidates. Ideal candidates means any company who have certain characteristic that it is suitable to be leverage buyout or for management buyout. Divestiture. Divestiture means that when company spin off or company sell some of their portion, either it may be a product or maybe any division of the company or any subsidiary of the company, we call it divestiture. Divestiture means the divestment of a portion of the enterprise or the firm as a whole, we call it divestiture. It is opposite to acquisition. Liquidation. What is mean by liquidation? Liquidation means the sale of asset of a firm, either voluntarily or in case of bankruptcy. Means that is liquidation when the firm is going to sell its assets. It is maybe voluntarily or maybe in case of bankruptcy and the company is unable to pay its short-term liability. In this case, they can liquidate their assets. What is sale of then? When the company do not sell its asset but sale of any division of a company, means let's suppose company have three division. One is cosmetics, and another is garment, and another is electronic. And this cosmetics, when the company sale its cosmetic division, we call it sale off. It will not be called liquidation. So selling any division of the company, known as partial sale off the company as a whole, are known as voluntary liquidation. If the company is basically as a whole sell all its division in product and machinery, we call it its voluntary liquidation. The company will no more exist. Spin-off. Spin-off is the third kind of divestiture, a form of divestiture resulting in a subsidiary or division becoming an independent company. For example, we will continue its case. This is cosmetic division has become separate subsidiary company of the parent company. So let's suppose P is a parent company. When the cosmetic division become independent A and become C limited, we will call it and it is what shareholding is held by P, we call it that is a subsidiary company and it is a parent company. If this company become an independent entity, we also call it as a spin-off. Ordinarily, shares in new company are distributed to a parent company shareholder on a pro rata basis. Pro rata basis means how much, if there is, let's suppose there were 50% shareholder in P of any shareholder, he will also get 50% share in C Limited as well. Equity carve out. This is the fourth kind of divestiture. Equity carve out is basically public sale of stock in a subsidiary in which the parent company usually retain majority of the control. Let's suppose this is Z Limited is a parent company. It hold A, B, C. These are three subsidiaries. If Z Limited sells some of its share, ordinary shares, to external party of B, let's suppose Z Limited have 80% shares in B. This is a shareholding of parent company, and it sell its, let's suppose, 40% of their shareholding to external party. We call it equity carve out. The base public sale of the stock in a subsidiary in which the parent company usually retain majority control. Empirical evidence on divestiture. For liquidation of the entire company, the shareholder of the liquidating company realizes 12 to 20% return. Means if the company follow the liquidation method, if they are sell their assets voluntarily or in case of bankruptcy, the shareholder return is basically 12% to 20%. For partial sale off, if they sell any of the portion, shareholder selling the company realize a slight return, that is 2%. Shareholder buying also experienced a slight gain as well. I mean, this is the company shareholder who are basically selling it, and these are the shareholder who are basically buying this selling. So the buyer shareholder will also experiences or their gain is slight, not any abnormal. Shareholder gain around 5% in spin off. In case the company is going to spin off its cosmetic division, the rest of the shareholder who are let's suppose this cosmetic division have been spin off by the P company, so the shareholder of P company will experience around about increase in 5%. These are basically research conducted in a different company in different environment. They just check the announcement of spin-off on the shareholder prices. It's like this. This is basically time. This is announcement date of spin-off. This is, let's suppose, share price movement. When this date the company now spin-off, maybe 5% increase, and this 5% increase is basically check in a research papers. Shareholder receives a modest 2% return for equity carve out. Similarly, in the in the same setup, the company will this researcher can also check the impact of these equity carve out announcement on the shareholder prices. It is on the average is 2% return. So these are basically empirical research. It is not necessary that anybody conduct the same research in Pakistan or India will give the same result. Maybe it gave different result because the investor do not have even we conduct this same in a SARC region, that what is the response of these divestiture policy, we will, let's suppose, collect a data on those companies who involve in divestiture and finds the response of the shareholding, share prices on a stock exchange, we may get a different result. So these results are because of the environment, because of the span of time, because of the data, because of the country economies, etc., etc. But these are some stylized fact of the research. Divestiture results are consistent with informational contents is shown by positive market responses to the divestiture announcement. When the company announce about divestiture that they are going to spin off certain division, it have been positively perceived by the market. Why positively perceived by the market? Maybe that the company is moving towards something new and going to extend its portfolio to a new product of business, or may consolidate itself for the growth to concentrate on the core business. So it has been positively pursued by the shareholders. Ownership restructuring. It means making a public company private through repurchase of stock by current management or outside private investor. Company go private. How the company go private? Either this is, let's suppose, A Limited. It is a limited company, and the management buy back all its outstanding shareholding and announce that the company will no more be listed on the stock exchange, or any outside investor buy all the company of all the share of the or majority shareholding of the company, and then decided in the board of directors that the company will be no more listed company, we are going to be a private company. So management and any outside investor can do this. Most common transactions in paying shareholder cash and merging the company into shell corporation owned by a private investor management group, treated as asset sale rather than merger. So common transactions that when the company paying shareholder in cash is basically one of the company when the shell corporation paid to the shareholder, and this company was added to the private to the shell corporation who are owned by the private investor management group. Or private investor management group can even buy a company that are owned by any other organization and make it private company. It is called asset sale rather than a merger. It will not be called a merger, because when the company is buying any company and make it private, then we call it asset sale, not a merger. Motivation for going private. Elimination of cost associated with being publicly held firm. Publicly held firm have bear certain extra cost. For example, just as registration with that of stock exchange and listing regulation requirement of the company, and many other registration with broker, etc. Servicing of shareholder means you will have to give them dividend, you will give them annual report every year. You will call them for annual general meeting. So you will have to maintain a proper corporate section in finance department. So these are some costs, and legal and administrative costs are also related to the listed company. Similarly, some costs are also related to Security and Exchange Commission regulation and its reports that are mandatory for listed company to be submitted throughout the year. Reduces the focus of management on short-term number to long-term wealth buildings. Basically, in listed company, the management always try to manipulate the share prices of the company, because they had a pressure that they should increase the share prices of the company. But when it become private, the management will get free from this short-term manipulation of share prices. They will focus on long-term wealth building. It will allow the realignment and improvement of management incentives to enhance wealth building by direct linking compensation to performance without having answer to the public. The management now be able to realign its incentives. Incentives is realignment with what? With the company performance. So when it is realigned with the company performance, management incentives, the company performance increase, management incentives will also be increased. An improvement of management incentives to enhance the wealth building by directly linking compensation to the performance without having answer to the public. Now they will be free to reply to public comments. They will link their performance to the they will link their compensations to the performance of the company. If the company performance increases, their compensation will also be increased. Otherwise, they will receive nothing. There are large transaction cost was also involves to the bankers if you buy or borrow from the bank. Later liquidity to its owner. So the ownerships now, the company should not maintain a liquidity, because in listed company, if the company is pay a single penny of its unable to pay its short-term obligation, the company go to liquidation. Large portion of management wealth is tied up with in a single investment. So in case of listed company, huge wealth of the management also they are in one company. Going further, LBO and MBO. What are leverage buyout? Basically, if there is a company which have a potential to operate and make it profitable, then any investing company, let's suppose that is P Limited is a company or any division, it have a growth chances, it have very good management, but it have some other issues. So what will happen? Any investor group borrow a huge money, which is called leverage, means they will borrow a huge money in order to buy this company, which is called leverage buyout. Primarily, it is a debt finance purchase of all stock or asset of the company or subsidiary of the company or division of the company by investor group. If it is not a company, it is, let's suppose, the investor group may buy a company, or there is a Z Limited which is subsidiary of any other company, and the investor group buy this company by heavy borrowing or borrow a huge debt to buy this company. It may be that there is one, let's suppose C is one division of the company, and they buy the division of the company by involving a huge debt. It is called leverage buyout. So the first thing is, primarily it should be debt finance, purchased all of the stock or asset of the company, subsidiary, division by investor group. The debt is secured by the asset of the enterprise involved. Now this huge debt which have been taken by any investor group, they will pledge these assets and the debt will be secured by the company for which the investor group borrowing the money. Thus this method is generally used with the capital intensive businesses. Basically leverage buyout occurred in those companies who need high capital, means they are run by capital and they are capital intensive businesses. What is management buyout? If the management initiate the leverage buyout, if management is involved in leverage buyout, it is called MBO. MBO is basically is a kind of leverage buyout in which the pre-buyout management end up with the substantial equity positions. Let's suppose this is a company delimited and its management is before buyout is, let's suppose there is a management who are there in the company, working in the company, who will also continue its function in the leverage buyout are initiated by these management by borrowing a huge amount of money to borrow the company from the shareholder. But what happen after a buyout? When buyout is there, the company have been borrowed and was buy by this management. Now this management will have huge equity portion. It is called management buyout. In other words, the leverage buyout that have been initiated and finalized by management is called management buyout. What are common characteristics of leverage of a company that are ideally best for leverage buyout? Means what company, what are the characteristics, what characteristics should be checked to buy the company by implying a huge debt. The company has gone through program of heavy capital expenditure. They have a modern plan, but the company, the management or the shareholder are not in a position to continue it. Secondly, there are subsidiary assets that can be sold without adversely impacting the core business, and the proceeds can be used to service a debt burden. Let's suppose you see a company who have a lot of assets and you see that these assets can be sold out when the company have been purchased by huge debt. Let's suppose you spin off this portion and pay up debt burden. You want to continue this too, and there is also another portion which you feel that it should also be spin off. You spend this one and pay the debt burden. So it is, if the company have subsidiary or asset of such type that can be spin off without adversely affecting the business, is an ideal candidate to be for the LBO. Any investor group can borrow huge amount and buy this company. There is a third characteristic is if any business seems to have stable and predicting cash flow. Fourth one is a proven established market position. If you are going to buy a company through huge debt, involving a huge debt, you are going to purchase a company, you should see that it have a very established market position. Less cyclical product sales means that have the product is not cyclical. It may have sale in one high sale in one in winter, but don't have any sale in a summer. So less cyclical product should be preferred. Experienced and quality management staff. This is very much necessary because the company may become a profitable when it have experienced and quality management. Staff is very much necessary. Experienced people can contribute to the success of the business. Thank you. This was all about today's lecture.